Guess what? 24 gouache paints. You already know. Let's get this thing. All right, so we're about to try these gouache paintings. I don't need that thing. I need this big one here. Oh yeah. So this one right here is what I'm gonna use all the 24 colors on. Probably not gonna do all of them, but I'm gonna do most of them. Now this gouache, man, I had a really hard time with this gouache. I don't know if it's because it was the cheap version or if that's just what gouache does, but when I first squeezed them out, it looked like water. And I was expecting, like, I heard it was a mix between like acrylic and watercolor. And I love watercolor, but acrylic I'm not really too fond of. So when I was like pulling them out, I'm like, what the heck? And so I decided to squeeze more, and it was like unmixed, and like the bottles were, or the tubes were too small to like mix up or shake up. So I started doing swatches, and they looked all like kind of inky, light. But then that's when I decided to go in and actually try to squeeze some more out. I tried to squeeze some more out, and then we ended up with some decent color and decent like pigmentation. So yeah, this process, it was a real struggle. So you can see here I did the whole, I don't know if I did the whole 24. I think I skipped a few that were like kind of redundant, like a few blues and a few oranges. But I got the gist of it. And after I fixed the paintings and fixed the paints and made them more like a consistency that I thought gouache was, then that's when they started looking more like nice and pigmented, and it layered on top of each other, which is very nice. Something that watercolor does, but it's kind of not questionable, but like it's kind of wishy-washy because you need less water, which watercolor is kind of, it starts as dry, so obviously you can't paint with dry things. But anyway, so yes, I would say these are a bit like acrylic and a bit like watercolor, but at a certain time. It's like when they're like first wet, and you go over it and you can kind of blend it like it's watercolor. But if it dries a little bit longer, then you can't really do anything with it, and that's how it's like acrylic. Now it's like this is a time games when you're working with gouache. It's very fun, but it's also very difficult, maybe, or it's also very like you need to have it down to a science, a time science. But yes, that's my, and I also use water as my like solvent. So I decided to go with a picture of my wife, and yeah, I use this picture because it has lots of lights, lots of contrast, kind of the thing I'm going for here. And I start with the base color, which I just made her yellow because she's in the sun. The exposure is pretty high on her, and she had vibrant blue hair. Also, that's what I really wanted to experiment with. So I went in with the base color, the skin first. I start with the skin because the skin is kind of like the thing that's there first, like the skin, and then the hair on top, so that you can, put the strands of hair wherever the skin is, or wherever the skin is there first. You can put the strand of hairs over that. And so I did this part for a while. Or no, I did this part and then I stopped for a while. Um, just I was just sitting there and I let the paints get dry because I was kind of like tired from all the experimentation of the gouache. But then I came back to it, and I finally conquered my gouache fatigue, and I went back in and actually finished the painting. Now with gouache, you can't reawaken the dry paint that's in your palette. At least I don't think so. I tried it. I think a little bit came off, but it's not like watercolor that you can just reawaken the same piece and keep working from like a little blob of watercolor. But a little bit of paint does go a long way. I would say that. There was a color that I kept like refilling, but that's only because I kept putting a little bit there. And so if you want to, get a lot, and you also got to worry about it drying. It does dry fast, like pretty fast, like watercolor and acrylic, I guess. They both dry pretty fast. Watercolor dries, as much as water does. And then, acrylic dries really fast, just like gouache. But that's kind of like, it's kind of the joy of it. Like oil, it kind of stays and you can kind of smear it a lot. And it's like, oh man. But gouache is like, it's a good medium of like people who are impatient but also want to make amazing art with nice colors. It does have nice colors. I do say that. It has really nice colors. It was very vibrant. It was pigmented. It was everything I wanted in a paint, except for the difficulty of using the paint. It's basically it definitely has some learning curves, but the learning curves aside, it's a very good medium. So when I started going in with the hair, it was very fun. I did my lights, then my darks, and then I did my midtones. Actually, I did my darks first because I didn't know if I wanted to keep things white or if I wanted to do midtones first and that. So I did the darks first because I knew that wouldn't really. It's already dry, so whatever I put on top, it's gonna still be there because black is kind of dominant. So I kept working my darks because I didn't have any black. I think I do have a black, but I didn't use the black because I don't like to use black. Black is like it kind of lessens the deepness of the painting to me. Anyway, if you like black, you can use black. That's fine. But as for me and my paintings, I usually don't use black. I usually make it black with some burnt sienna and some aquamarine blue. But this one didn't really have that, so I kind of made two blacks, the shirt and then the hair black. One I used more blue, one I used more burnt sienna, and it kind of it worked out pretty well. So this is a mirror selfie of my wife, of course, and she had Chimmy on her phone from BT21. But at the end here, I just kind of I don't know. I messed up on the fingers a little bit, and then I went back and fixed them, and then it's all a mess. But in the end, I think it turned out very nice. It's one of my good pieces, one of my favorite pieces. Especially how much I struggled in the beginning using the medium. I think it turned out very nice. The struggle was worth it. We didn't stop doing it. We didn't opt out of it. We got through it. That's how we're supposed to do it. Get through the problems, solve them, get through them, and maybe you'll like the outcome. Maybe you won't, but hey, it either shows how much you were struggling or how much you can triumph over the struggle. Either way, it's a thing that happened. So with gouache, you can overlay things with white or a lighter color, and it'll actually like overlay on top of it. I wouldn't try to like cover up any dark things though, because I think it would show through. But overall, I think that gouache is a good for lightening up things or darkening up things, adding some like depth into your subject. And yeah, I added a background, made it red to contrast with all the blue and all the cool tones. See, her face is like oranges, yellow, but that's kind of a cooler color in the warm colors. If that makes any sense. So yeah, I fixed up this hand, and then I tried to do chinny with some more of this black I made. It turned out a little wonky, but we were getting there. You can tell who he is, I think. The hand is all crazy looking, but I think that's the style I was going for, right? No, it's not, but it looks like the style I was going for, and it fits. So I cleaned it up here. I didn't want it to look too crazy, so I cleaned it up, made it look a little bit more clean, and yeah, everything worked out nicely. And in the end, we made it. So yes, this was my gouache painting, my first gouache painting that I attempted. I like it very much. I hope you like it. And yes, have fun doing art. See you next time. Bye.